This week on Half-Ass Movie Podcast, you're going to hear a lot about Marky Mark, Edward James Olmos, and of course the subject of our series this month, Denzel Washington. Maybe some bad impressions, a little trip to cliche corner maybe, but I think the best part of this movie that no one's going to be bringing up, I'm fairly certain of it at least, is how great is it that we can all agree that these three-letter agencies may not have a clue. Before I get put on a list, though, welcome to Half-Ass Movie Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Half-Ass Movie Podcast, a show where we put together a half-ass theme as an excuse to watch movies. My name is Adam Portress, and joining me today, he doesn't have one, but somehow I know he could pull off a bolo tie. Sweet Sean Zakovacs from the internet.
I don't know if I could, but thank you.
I think you could. I think if given the right kind of wear and stuff, I think given a proper hat, you could look good. I'm seeing it there. And he's buried up to his neck like a chicken, Bruce Leslie.
I'm proud to say I wore a bolo tie in a yearbook picture once.
Here's the thing that I'm not surprised at, though. If you said if any one of us was to have worn a bolo tie at any point, you would for certainly be the one that I would choose with that. But I do think if like you kind of give him like a Joe Bob Briggs kind of outfit or something like that, Sean could pull that off. I've seen him dress.
Oh yeah, that way I could totally pull that off. Yes,
you'd pull that off for sure. Yeah, not with the you can't have a t-shirt on.
I like the idea of just like Adidas head to toe and a bolo tie.
Run DMC track head to toe.
It's like, whoa, it's the Southern Texas Run DMC guy.
But yeah, so we're kicking on our Denzel Washington here, everybody, and we're thankful you guys are here. If you're here for the first time, thanks so much for dropping by. Stay a while, won't you? But if you're a stalwart H&P fan, all the way from back in the Volume 1 days, we want to thank you as well, because this month we're doing our best to be thankful for all the things that we have. Specifically, one of our great American actors in our series we're calling Thankful, the action films of Denzel Washington. We covered Virtuosity, then Fallen. Now this week we're talking about a little movie that was always a bridesmaid but never a bride, Two Guns from 2013, starring Denzel Washington and Marky Mark. Bruce, this was your doing, yes?
Yes, it was my choice, just because in homage of our old format when we were covering comic book movies, this is a comic book movie we didn't get to cover, so maybe it's doing a little double dipping there.
It's weird because it was one that we would put on the slate and stuff many times, and it did get votes. It rarely ever got like no votes, so it always had a little something in there, but never quite crested the top spot there and everything. So we're kicking on this one today, so I'm at least excited to get it knocked off the list. And it's a later Denzel Washington movie, which I think at some point now, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I've seen most Denzel Washington movies, or at least I feel like I've tried to, especially within the last couple of years, because when he comes out, it's like, I'm going to go see a Denzel Washington movie, of course. Take my money.
I was surprised by how old this movie is.
2013.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm shocked by that.
Yeah.
I did not know. I could have told you that this was made 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was kind of on, I don't know if I'd say on the first wave, because it's not quite first wave, but I mean it was taking a stab when comic book movies were big, even if they weren't superhero comic books. People were making them, like that Hell's Kitchen movie with the lady actors. I'm trying to think, probably trying to be a little bit like A History of Violence is another one of those that falls into that category. Road to Perdition, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was just like, has somebody put out a graphic novel that's been of some note, a variety, and depend upon how much you can pick up this one for. And this one I wouldn't imagine wouldn't be like picking up a Hellboy or something like that. This might be a little bit on the cheaper side and everything.
It probably was pretty darned affordable. It was published by Boom, which shows you that it was creator owned for the most part. So they're dealing with the writer, and when you're buying directly from the writer, it tends to be a little bit cheaper than when you're buying from the publisher that tries to cut the writer out.
The conglomerate.
Yeah. The big boys.
we'll get into all of that. And if this movie was kind of, like I said, from 2013, and was this an overlooked movie? Should it be something go people look out? We're going to check all of that out. But before we do, we do want to say a big giant thank you to the people who support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. This week's Dinger Zone, since we got Marky Mark as our co-star here and everything in this Two Guns flick, we decided to do our top 5 Marky Mark films. And let me tell you something, boys and girls, I was surprised. I was surprised about the list. I really was. I thought, like, for sure it'd be like, these are going to be the first couple of things. No, we had for the most part, a pretty decently varied list. I was shocked.
Yeah.
Well, mostly for my picks, it's mostly because I can't stand Mark Wahlberg. So there's that.
No, you know. And so it bodes super well for today's movie. But so if you do want to hear all of Sean's insights and I call it love for Mark Wahlberg, it's a different kind of love. It's a love that, it's like I'd love it when this cold is gone. And you feel better.
When Sean says that he hates Mark Wahlberg, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. He hates both the person and his work. So let's be clear.
What are you talking about? Mark Wahlberg's had nothing but a squeaky clean career his entire life. You shut your mouth.
Look, man, it goes in this order, right? The movies of Mark Wahlberg that I can't stand the most. 1, Mark Wahlberg playing a smart person.
I'm a bit of a genius,
Number 2, Mark Wahlberg thinking that he's funny.
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm just imagining Good Will Hunting with Mark Wahlberg instead of Matt Damon. That is a movie I would own on deluxe.
Number three, least favorite Mark Wahlberg performances when everyone around him is out acting the shit out of him, and he tries to really act it up. That's my 3rd least favorite. So those are the top 3 of Mark Wahlberg movies I can't stand.
So you can hear his other sides over there at the Digger Zone. So patreon.com/HMP. Join up at any level. I will say this. So I'm going to go through and if indeed people want this, I want to do you can do an entire year of HMP. So if you want to do it in kind of one lump sum there and everything, if you do it like the $100 for the entire year, what I'm also going to do is anybody that does that or at the $10 level or above, I'm going to send out stickers to you every month. Stickers and stuff that I design, and we'll have those printed up and stuff and send those out to you every month. So just a little something extra that we want to give to you. So I think, and I want to
let's go in halvesies, Sean. I want to get some of those stickers.
Yeah,
because I got 2 that I actually want to give out on the first run here, just to kind of incentivize people to go through. The first will be our classic Dirty Babies sticker there and everything, nice. And another one with the or what I call the 3-tiered HMP logo, which is pretty much the logo that you see in the majority of the podcast art there and everything. So 2 of those, we'll go out in that first set, and then each month after that subsequent one, we'll go through and just kind of change some art stuff, just something I'll design, and we'll have some fun with it, hopefully. So if you would like that and more stuff in the shows, holy smokes, so much stuff, patreon.com/HMP. Love you so much. Or drop us an email over at halfassmoviepod@gmail.com. Review us on iTunes, Spotify, all those places. Tell your mama, and for the love of God, go over to youtube.com and just check out Half-Ass Movie Podcast. Subscribe to that. We're not only putting just the shows up there and everything now, I'm also doing other video content. I did a 4K unboxing and everything of a new movie. So go check that out. I plan on doing more things like that. And you coming by and dropping some eyeballs and likes and comments on it makes me feel very, very nice. Peter dropped one that said he loves me doing this. So thank you guys so much for that. And subscribe to that. Thank you so much. Link up for all this kind of good stuff will be in the show notes. All right, boys and girls, let's get into it. Here is the IMDb plot line for Two Guns. As we all know, IMDb 100% correct in everything they say and or do. 2 hardened criminals get into trouble with the U.S. Border Patrol after meeting with a Mexican drug lord, and their revelations start to unfold. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but okay, whatever. This one's written by Blake Masters. He was a big TV guy mostly. He did Brotherhood, Rubicon, Law and Order L.A. That's a new one, I suppose. Crossbones, Falling Water, Sneaky Pete, and Heels. That's a wrestling thing. Two Guns is actually his only feature film to date, based upon the comic by Stephen Grant, directed by, I'm going to screw his name up, Balthazar Komikatar. It's an Icelandic name. So nice. he did Contraband with Marky Mark in 2012. Everest, at least that was cool in IMAX 3D. I'll say that. Adrift, that was Okay, I suppose. The Beast, I never saw that one, but that's with Idris Elba. It looked okay, I suppose. It looks like he does some American stuff, but he does go back and forth and do some Icelandic movies and stuff as well. So I guess he has kind of a dual career, which I think is kind of cool. He just kind of goes and goes, all right, here's an American film, there's an Iceland film. This is starring Denzel Washington, Mark Wahlberg, Paula Patton, James Marsden, Edward James Olmos, Fred Ward, Patrick Fleischer, and the cherry on top that I was not expecting at all, the late, great Bill Paxton. When he showed up on screen, I had a little bout of delight. I did not know he was going to be in this. And I because they don't have credits at the start going like, here's all your characters, blah, blah, blah. Or if they did, I wasn't paying attention to it. So when Bill Paxton showed up, I was like, son of a bitch, this movie just shifted into gear.
Yeah.
I'm guessing this is a first time watch for all three of us.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. All these surprises are going to hit us all the same, which it makes it fun. It's been a while since I think we've had a non-new release that was a first-time watch for us all.
Yeah.
I was literally stewing in my own piss about this movie because there's so much Mark Wahlberg up at the top. And then once Bill Paxton arrives into this movie, I was like, well, hold on a minute. Let's give this another shake.
He's not quite got a Chet haircut, but he's got a bad one. Like it's it's the second worst haircut he's ever had. He's
great in this. But I will say, what this made with, and I know he's too old to play the part. I don't care. I think this movie is made 1,000 times better if you replace Mark Wahlberg with Bill Paxton.
Oh yeah, I think there's a pretty long list of people that
yes.
into that role.
Yes.
But yeah, that's not a bad one.
I mean, you can replace him with his brother and it would be better. If Donnie Wahlberg were in this movie, it'd be a better movie.
Donnie's at home clapping out loud listening to this podcast. I mean, he's so happy about it. He's just like, listen, I didn't think I was going to get mentioned in this episode.
He's still working on that show that your
better.
parents watch, Adam. He's been on that show for, I'm going to say 20 years now.
Oh, Lordy.
He's on Blue Bloods.
Yeah, I would imagine they watch that. That's probably true.
He never gets upset if you call him Donnie Don.
He's cool with it. He's just like, hey, man.
He's just glad you call him anything at all.
Those checks get cashed, baby.
No, the guy who wrote this, Stephen Grant, or he's who wrote the source material, I should say, the comic book that it's based on. And I know him best as a Punisher writer, so this kind of would be in his wheelhouse with guns and explosions.
What era of Punisher was he writing? Do you remember?
I would say around 2005 to 2010, something like that.
So it's past where he is in heaven, like fighting for angels and stuff.
It should be, unless I'm wrong about it.
I don't think you are. I think you're right.
Because around 05, that's your past Ennis point and everything.
Yeah.
He's off of it by that point. I kind of stopped after that one because I was just like, you ain't getting better than this, boy. I'm out.
It's true.
I'm like, what other... Tell me when you're doing some Punisher again, then I'll come back.
Yeah.
Until then, yeah. But how's this compared to the actual book and stuff? You said that you got the trade for an immaculately high price.
I bought the trade paperback. Used to at shows. I would look for out of print trades because I was not real into digital at that point in time. And digging through a box of out of print trades, I saw something for like 50 cents when everything else was usually above cover price. It might have been $1. I don't want to sell it short, but for whatever it was practically free. And I was like, you know what? We're probably going to cover this movie for Hero Movie Podcast. So it's worth $1 just so I can have something to say for the comic book connection.
Yeah.
Oh, so you knew that that was made into a movie.
Oh yeah, this was after we'd been doing the podcast. I mean, it was out of print by the time I saw it. So we're talking maybe 2017, if I'm guessing, 2016, something like that.
It's one of those. That thing's been out. You see it for cheap, and you figure, hey, maybe there's a decent enough chance we come across that movie, given what we do. So,
yeah.
But never a chance. What's the art like? Is it anything that would look
like
it
black and white? I'm imagining it as black and white.
No, it's color art. It's boom. It's color art. Yeah, and it's bright colors. Not quite like old 3-color comics, but I mean, it's not like a nuanced Marvel comic. It's got that indie look where it's just bold, bright colors and not a lot of shading. Line work's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
The artist was a guy whose name I don't recall.
Is that Spanish?
It's interesting to me that this was made into a movie. I'm guessing that once Denzel signs on, then it just gets fast tracked. But this seems like one of those movies where it's like, hey, we're going to make this movie. It's not going to cost a lot of money. And then immediately Denzel signs on and you're like, this movie is going to cost a whole lot of money. And we're going to have helicopters in it. And we're going to be shooting on location. Like there's a lot of that feel to this movie where it felt like originally what they wanted to do was make a very small movie and then it actually just ballooned.
Yeah, according to the old IMDb here, your budget for this bad boy was $61 million.
Ooh.
And it doubled it at the box office.
Yeah, I mean your worldwide gross is 131, so I mean like
really,
which I mean I guess
I had never even heard of this movie until Bruce started forcing it down our throat.
That was I didn't. I'm sorry, man. I was just trying to bring something to the show. But anyway, the thing that I always thought was that this movie was forgotten, strangely overlooked. That I thought nobody went to see it, but apparently people did.
Neat.
U.S. and Canada gross was 75 mil. I don't remember.
This is one of those things. This is one of those movies that's just such a blind spot for me. Like I had never, like I don't think I'd even heard of this thing.
Here's the thing, though. I think honestly, the reason that you've got two very bankable names in here that are going to cross two very kind of different boundaries and stuff like that. And I think that ends up selling a lot of tickets. A lot of people like Denzel, a lot of people like Mark Wahlberg. You put two of them together, throw a few guns in the mix and everything. And again, you pepper it also with a couple of other great character actors and stuff like that. I think people are going to, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
For me personally, this came out within a year of the Sylvester Stallone movie Bullet to the Head, where they stylized it with the number 2, so 2 guns, bullet to the head. It was easy for me to kind of get them cross-wired in my head a little bit too, almost like they ate up each other's plans, because it's also based on a graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
Bullet to the Head is also based on a graphic novel.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Also another one that we put up for
French graphic novel, which is basically the French words for bullet in the head. 2 bullets in the head is what the French, I think, is what it is. I'm trying to read the French and translate it in my head.
Doso bullets in a head.
I think it's two bullets in the head rather than bullet to the head. So maybe that's why the number 2 is in there, because there were 2 bullets in. Anyway, it's the same story. Only in this story, it's an American guy and an Asian guy going at it.
Well, this also was supposedly at one point going to be called 2 Guns, 1 Bank. I shit you not. That's at least according to the IMDb.
Oh, that was probably a workshop name for the comic that got dropped because it's easier to print 2 guns on the cover real big.
Yeah, the other one's like, it's too much. Yeah, you're right.
It's one of those were probably the first issue, because individual issues have their story titles too. I bet you 2 Guns, the very first issue is called 2 Guns, 1 Bank, and that's why they debate.
Yeah, you're probably right. You just kind of like, how each of your preacher trades is kind of named there and everything.
Now, this movie also came around when we were still dealing with a lot of prestige TV. Cable TV was still place to be on Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching this, and with as many characters and as many double crosses and as deep as this story goes, I wonder what this would have been like if it was a Westworld type miniseries instead.
And that's what's interesting, coming from the writer who has done mostly television stuff. This does feel like this could be like a television series of sorts.
And it's based on an episodic source material that came out, where at the end of a big issue, you need a twist. And at the end of an issue, you need a twist. So you could do that at the end of each episode. But when you have this many twists in a sub 2-hour movie, it starts to, you just get numb to it, and it doesn't have any effect anymore.
What do we think about kind of like the opening bit here? Because we play a little bit with time, which I wasn't quite expecting at all, and had to like kind of catch my bearings and stuff and go like, oh, okay, we're doing something just a little bit different. And I'm grateful that they didn't do it for the whole time, but it's interesting up top.
It felt a little bit like Baltasar is a Tarantino fan, and he was paying a little homage.
That is, it literally felt like the cheapest of Tarantino like knockoffs to me at first.
Couldn't you even see these guys as Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta? You know what I mean? Like I could see him picturing them sitting there, and that's what the mood he was going for.
Yeah,
it's funny because usually the first scene in the movie is supposed to be like your big like like, hey everybody, this is what you're in for. This is going to be great, right? Like that's kind of what the first scene in a movie is supposed to be. And the first scene in this movie is literally my least favorite scene in the movie. Like once you get past that, like it gets better. But man, that whole thing where like he's cool at the like it's just like, and he's like being flirty and like he's like he's like street smart. And it's just
I knew that was
the hell up.
I knew that was the point where I'm just like, Sean is dying right now at this. He's just like, as he's winking at the waitress, and like, now, granted, I think he's supposed to be an asshole character, and we're not supposed to really like him. I think that's the character. I could be wrong, but I think that's what they're. Maybe Marky Mark.
Well, he does say it. He says nobody likes me at some point, and I was like, yeah, you're right about that, buddy.
Correct. Now, and it could have just been me having some attention span issues, being distracted by the phone a little bit, but they did the timey-wiminess so poorly that I thought they robbed a second bank the exact same way they robbed the first one. And then I saw like the diner even has the same name. That's stupid. And then it started to click with me.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You're right. It's I guess the biggest problem with it is that it is clunky, is that you don't realize that you're in for that. And it doesn't telegraph it to you, but not in like, you can do that, but not in the ham-fisted way. It's tough to kind of quantify what I'm saying here, but like you can do it better than what we did here. I guess that's the ultimate way I'm saying. It's just like it's not done super well here to where it goes, oh, you understand that. It takes you scratching your head for 2 minutes going, oh, okay, this was the previous bit to okay, that makes more sense.
I didn't even get that it was that there was like a time jump until Bill Paxton's character's like 3 days ago the diner burned down. Like I didn't even that didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, and Bruce, you're right. It made it look like that we did this exact same thing again. If you're not careful and looking at it, and you're like, wait, what? Oh, we're going back in time. Ugh, that was a missed or I don't want to say missed opportunity, but a miscalculation as to storytelling.
But despite our early criticism of this, it is fun enough and it's big enough and the cast is famous enough and there's enough there. I'm still surprised that this movie wasn't a little bit bigger deal. Like it doesn't seem to stick in anybody's memory. Nobody talks about it. I mean, I think it should at least be on par with like early 90s Estevez movies or something. Like we still remember those and talk about them, even though they're not great.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think that this is a movie that doesn't exist. And it's kind of surprising because there is enough in it to make people go, oh, you know what? That's pretty cool. Like, I mean, me, by the time that first scene is over, like I'm ready to set this movie on fire. But then you when you start settling in with this movie, you're like, oh, well, that's pretty good. Oh, that's a good scene. Oh, you know what? That's all right. It's one of those movies where like if you can get past the things that you don't like about it, you're gonna be okay. Like it's that kind of movie.
And also, like, if there's a particular element, let's call it Marky Mark or something.
Well, let's just put a name on it and call it Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, if and you do that, it's kind of like punk songs. Just wait 2 minutes, another one's coming around the corner. You know,
right.
It's like you don't like this one. Don't worry.
We've been showering the praise onto Bill Paxton because he is just so great in this style role that he's in. He's just so good. But everybody in this movie is, with the exception of Mark Wahlberg, is really like they know the assignment and they were really playing up to that assignment, which I like. Edward James Olmos in this movie is great.
He's so good. When he shows, again, another one, I'm so glad they didn't put any names up top, or if they did, I didn't realize they did. Because when Edward James Olmos shows up, I'm just like, oh shit, this is great. I am so happy. And like, I love that man's face. It just photographs so well. He just like his emotions just leap off of that just old withered face. I love it so much throughout all the years, but even more so as the older he gets, the better it gets, it seems.
It's true.
And I looked up its release weekend, kind of trying to figure out how it got overlooked. It won the weekend.
Huh.
But it was one of 5 comic book movies in the top 20. I won't do the classic Bruce thing where I read the whole list to you, but it was also up against Red 2, where we're talking about like the comic book movies that aren't super.
Oh, right.
and
Right.
R.I.P.D. So it wasn't even bad enough to be the bad movie we all talked about. Like R.I.P.D. way more memorable to me than Two Guns because it was so bad.
Yeah, that movie is like firmly in the let's not do this again style movie, but that's also what recommends it because to this day people reference that movie.
Here's the crazy question I have for you. Did we ever actually review that?
I believe we did.
Oh, I didn't. You guys might have reviewed it without me.
I can't.
I believe we did. I couldn't tell you.
I know it went up. I know, like Two Guns, it went up for votes so many times, but I don't. And again, all I can remember is the fucking trailer. It just doesn't it doesn't compute with me. I don't think we did.
Maybe
I've
we
never
didn't.
seen it, so that's how I know I didn't review it. But it looks to me like they took Men in Black and Ghostbustered it.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't think. No, I'm fairly certain we didn't watch that. If any
maybe
old
we
school
didn't,
HMPers
but
know, let
I'm
me know.
remembering that we did, but who knows?
Like I said, I think it went up for votes so many times that it felt like we did.
Maybe
just
that's
much
what it
like
is.
this movie, where it's just like, surely we've seen that at this point. No, we have not.
Really, he's suggesting that movie again? Haven't we seen this already?
Just for reference, the number 2 movie, the opening weekend Two Guns came out, was The Wolverine starring Hugh Jackman.
Oh, boy. So, yeah, that was probably a couple weeks into that. And then this was just enough to, again, you got Denzel, you got Marky Mark. That's enough. Apparently, that's enough for folk to come out.
I've never made $27 million in a weekend.
Mm-hmm. Well, your stripping days are long past you, so I don't think you're going to beat that at this point, bud. That's just a guess.
I was the only stripper that went home with a debt.
A bill? What is this? Really, again, I love the stupid, just we get into all the little character actors, like the vet, when he shows up. I'm just I love that guy and everything he's in. He's just got one of those just faces, just a great character actor face that you're just like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, there's a lot of those people in this movie too, where you're like, where do I know that guy from? Like that happens often. The thing that I'm most surprised by with this movie is just how many locations there are, because I'm guessing that this shot probably in LA or outside of LA, just because their Mexican town looks like a Mexican town. There, like all of that stuff.
Yeah, I'd put that. That seems likely.
Now, none of us has mentioned Paula Patton.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. The number one thing I think of when I saw her in some scenes in this movie is that Alan Thicke really messed up his life, didn't he?
Oh, was he with this lady?
He was married to her. Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then, he ruined that, man. I don't know who she got mad at him for messing around with, but I doubt he traded up. I really do, man. She's something. But does she still act, or is she living off of divorce settlement money, or doesn't have to work? I don't know what the deal is, because I feel like I haven't heard her name mentioned in a while. No,
I'm not overly familiar. I liked her well enough. I like that we're in the 21st century and we just have some, gratuitous nudity. I like it. I don't care what, we don't have much of it these days. So the fact that when we get a little bit of it, it's kind of nice. I mean, dudes as well, throw a couple dongs in there. I don't care. But just, I just say, because we just don't have a lot of nudity in films and stuff. So
it's
when
totally
it's
1-to-1, if you get to see Denzel naked,
or where you're listening,
bring back gratuitous nudes.
Now here's the thing. Gratuitous nudity, yes. Gratuitous sex scenes, I'm going to say no. There's a difference.
Yes, agreed.
Gratuitous sex scenes we don't need. Little gratuitous nudity, that's fine, though.
Gratuitous nudes, please.
My goodness.
The only gratuitous sex scenes I like are the ones in MacGruber.
Can't watch that. Hate it so much.
Just watch it for the sex scenes. I promise.
Just for the sex scenes. Fair enough.
That's serious. It's how they all should be.
That's why I watch Team America.
It's But I always remember Paula Patton because when I was a kid, I got to meet the governor of Kentucky, and the governor at the time was Paul Patton. So at first I thought, wow, this might be his daughter, but it's definitely not. He's not that attractive.
You never know. He could have married a very attractive lady. Who's to say?
He
James
has some
Marsden.
really strong, ugly genes. I just know it.
James Marsden showing up again. Another delight where it's just I love that he's playing this straight-laced guy, but then goes that hardcore thing, and he's got enough range where he pulls that off. where
Yeah.
you look at him at first and you're like, this is a, that pencil pushing, pinhead kind of thing and stuff. But like you also buy when it's time for him to, don the SWAT suit and everything and go after him.
Yeah.
You buy that stuff too. It's great.
He's also got that thing that like is unfortunate for him is that like he's too good looking. Like I know that sounds weird to say.
He has like a CW lead actor problem.
Right. Like he's too cute, handsome, like handsome, cute.
Yeah.
To the point where it's hard to believe him in things sometimes because you're like, that guy is so good looking. Like it's ridiculous how good looking that guy is.
Like a guy that handsome would ever be stuck as a sheriff of a small town.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just like, wait a second. What? No, you would be the most popular person in town by a landslide.
Now David Harbour, I can believe. David Harbour looks like he needs to be stuck in a town in Indiana as law enforcement.
Exactly. That much makes sense. James Marsden doesn't look like he had a donut a day in his life.
No, he's never. He doesn't even know what carbs are.
You'll probably never guess what I bear trapped on here, Sean. So I'm just going to tell you that
I'm going to guess it's the woman that you talked about for 20 minutes that no one's ever heard of before.
No, I thought
it's something else.
I thought everybody knew about Alan Thicke and his messy divorce.
Oh God, it is on the top of my list.
Oh, we're big. What was the show that his dad had? The Current
Affair.
Growing Pains.
We love Growing Pains so much here. I can't even remember the name. Let's move on. No, I was bear trapped on why the hell was Marky Mark from the Navy? Like you could pick any armed force you want. This is fictional. Why do you pick the Navy? I just couldn't get over it. The Navy made no sense unless, they thought Navy SEALs are bad, so we'll make him a Navy SEAL. But for the thing they're doing, to me, either the Army or the Coast Guard, because the Coast Guard take out drugs all the time. So to have a crooked Coast Guard guy dealing with drugs and drug money would make sense. The Navy just seemed like a weird choice because we don't look like we're anywhere near a naval base through most of this movie.
And it's not like we call them SEALs or anything specifically, because if you were doing that, wouldn't you figure you'd go like a more kind of SEAL-y route sort of thing as opposed to just, maritime?
Yeah, and I say just make him a Marine or a Green Beret or something.
It's a weird enough choice, but like...
Because I love for all my naval conflicts to be in a Mexican desert.
Speaking of Mexican,
it is weird. I know that he does a lot of armed forces movies. Like I know that that's kind of his lane.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't in real life see him in the armed forces because people tell him what to do, and I can't see him doing what they're telling him to do. So I could see him at some compound somewhere, but I can't possibly see him in armed forces.
If you ever want to do yourself a favor and check out, there's a guy called Mike Israetel, and he breaks down Mark Wahlberg's training and stuff because he took GQ or whatever through a whole morning of his training session and stuff. And so there's a guy who's like an actual bodybuilder and stuff going, let's watch and critique everything that Mark Wahlberg does. And as you might imagine.
I may spend some time on this.
It's a show. It's just like, what in the hell is this?
Of course, it's a show.
It's like this does nothing. Why? There's so many other things you could do.
It's like a professional wrestler workout, where it looks impressive to somebody who has no idea what they're watching.
Yeah, right. I'm swinging this stuff around a lot. It's really, this is good for the back. No, is it though? But yeah, listen. Here's the thing. As much as Marky Mark is Marky Mark and everything, his isms and everything aren't up to a gajillion in this. He's not absolutely, you don't want to kill him all the time. He's at least dialing it back enough. And I think the fact that he's playing off of Denzel and everything at least helps to that. It mitigates to it. It kind of gives us two A personalities to kind of bash into each other a little bit, which kind of helps. And it also helps mitigate his character a little bit, because if it was just Mark Wahlberg, I think we'd all be pissed. But the fact that we have Denzel Washington here for them to both then play off of each other, it equals out his character a little bit more. So I at that point, I kind of forgive the Wahlberginess of it all.
I see where you're coming from with that thought, Adam. Like if you don't just despise the man like I do, like I could totally see, just some random Saturday afternoon, you're going through your Netflix reel and you're like, oh hey, let's go with that. The carousel, that's the word I was looking for. You're going through your Netflix carousel and you come upon Two Guns and you're like, oh, you know what, Denzel's in this, Mark Wahlberg I'm indifferent towards, let's give it a shot. Like you may end up being like, you know what, that's not such a bad movie.
Yeah.
Why have I never heard of this movie before?
And again, when James Earl Jones, when Edward James Olmos and James Marsden, that's how I got that messed up. And and especially when Paxton shows up, it changes everything, or it adds like another little spice that you weren't quite expecting from it, and it's like it's delightful. It's like, you know what? I tell you what, this isn't nearly as bad as I had expected it to be, and one of the ones that I think that a lot of us, especially within the H&B voting community and everything, I'm sure there was many people that are like, oh boy, I don't know about this one. It could be so much worse, especially at this particular time too.
Yeah,
because like you said, we're at that kind of point of we're just doing this, comic book movies of sorts and stuff. They're giving them enough money, but not wild money. Like you just hit them all in just the right kind of spot here. And again, to find out how much money this movie actually made, it's kind of astounding. It all worked as well as it did.
Agreed.
And you mentioned Netflix earlier, Sean, and when I watched it on Netflix, it was in the just added section. And I could see people, because this movie's kind of forgotten, and you say, gee, Denzel Washington, Mark Wahlberg, I haven't heard of this. It must be a new movie. So I could see people checking it out and thinking it's new. Yeah. And they might not be disappointed.
Here's what a super cool thing about this is, though. Think back about this movie. How much technology is used? Little to none.
Yeah.
And so I think that leads to a very timeless nature to this movie that makes it last a lot longer than it was, because nobody's pulling out like an iPhone 4 or anything like that. There's nary a cell phone in this movie.
There are a couple, though.
But it's few and far between, and nor do we spend any time like looking at somebody's calling me and you look at the front Razor flip phone or some shit. There's none of that going on, which is so nice.
And I mean this in all seriousness. I'm not trying to make an insensitive joke, but the only thing that really lets you know this isn't a recent movie is Bill Paxton, because unfortunately, he passed away 7 years ago. So that's the only thing that's quote unquote dated about it, but his performance is timeless. So, if you don't necessarily know the actor, you're still digging this as if it were.
And this is the gray era kind of towards the end here and everything, where Paxton is having fun with what I call the country character. Right?
Yeah.
Because he's doing this character. He's doing the same thing in Edge of Tomorrow and stuff, where he's got his mustache and he's got his little accent, and he's like, they're not the same character. They're not the same character for sure, but they're like from the same family of characters, if you will.
That's good. I like that. That's great.
He's very specifically, he's kind of like he's got something he wants to do right now in this kind of era. I don't know what it is, and it's fucking weird, and he is strange in it, but there's something about him where you're just like, these are some wild ass choices, and if it were anyone other than Bill Paxton, you'd probably scoff at it, but the fact that it's Bill Paxton makes you go, shit, that's all right. I'm okay with that. That's good. That character is chewing scenery, but it's Bill Paxton. Pass.
It's the same kind of pass I give to Benicio del Toro. I don't know if you guys do, but I love his weirdness.
There's another one where you're just like, listen, I don't know what in the earth he's doing in this Star Wars movie, but I'll take it. It's strange. He don't belong in anywhere near a Star Wars, but I like it. I like it.
No.
Breaking news: Crispin Glover's in the next one.
I wouldn't be shocked. I couldn't put it past.
His third act is going to be something to behold, I think. Benicio del Toro's third act, like when he gets old, and grandpa-y, like that's going to be something really fun to watch.
Like, what do you want to do now? And like, I couldn't imagine. I can't imagine. Like, and he's still to this day, everything that you put him in a Wes Anderson film and you're like, you're even weirder than Wes Anderson characters. How's that possible, bro? So good. Gotta love it.
Remember when Netflix thought that they had all the money in the world and they would get like Chris Evans to make an original Netflix movie? They got Charlize Theron for that Old Guard movie. They had that Jamie Foxx movie that was kind of superhero-y. This feels like it could have been made by Netflix in that era where they spent a lot of money on
totally.
And we would have talked about how it's one of the best made for Netflix movies, but because it's a theatrical release, you look at it differently.
Oh yeah, if this was put out on Netflix directly, it's one of
the best just because of the Mark Wahlberg of it all. But I know what you mean.
I would only mean that because the other ones never impressed me. You know what I mean? It's like where a C student suddenly the smartest kid in class if he goes to the right class.
It's true. I think that The Old Guard would probably still be my favorite made for Netflix original movie.
Oh, good. I love the writer on that, so thank you.
I like the director.
Win-win.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of one. I was scratching my noggin and I'm just like, when's the last time I watched it? But do I feel I need to, watch something on Netflix? Because I
it's The Kissing Booth 3. You can say it.
All right, fine. It's Kissing Booth, at least season 2. Whatever the hell it is. Isn't that, wasn't that? I don't know. I don't know nothing about that.
I think that's a teenage drama movie, I think.
Yeah.
I do think there's like 3 of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where you're just like, there's 15 of these, and you're just like, what the hell? I've never even heard of this.
What?
You're just like, it's the world's biggest seller. That's when you also know that you're getting old, where you just like, I've never heard of this before. And the best part is you don't give a damn.
And you don't even care.
It's just like, hey, you don't know about this hot new thing. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Don't care. So
it's
happy
like
to not
like
care.
when you see just how many Babysitters Club books you are when you're, like an 8-year-old, and you're like, there's 875 of these. Well, I'll never read any. Moving on.
I just start with the last one, so I know how it ends.
Oh, good.
Bit of a
That's smart.
completionist.
I didn't think. See. That's why I know you're smarter than me, Bruce.
I don't know if I ever read Babysitter's Club, but I did read some Sweet Valley High books when I worked at the library out of sheer boredom.
Are they as great as they seem?
I promise you that you would not be surprised by reading them.
Okay.
That's a great just statement. It's not an insult. It's just like you would be surprised.
If you see the cover and you want to read that book, you will be happy with that book.
If
you see the cover and you're like, what the hell is this? Like I was, you may not sing its praises, yet I still finished it.
That's great. So
it's like watching a soap opera.
You know who we haven't talked about yet is Denzel Washington in this movie.
Oh yeah, that little guy.
He had a whole month.
Done and gone.
This is still his month, isn't it? Never mind.
Yes.
I thought we were doing Mark Wahlberg month, Sean.
I thought I'll tell you what. Like I know that I keep hounding on this, but like that first scene with Mark Wahlberg in it, I was like, oh no, Denzel's sleepwalking through this movie.
I felt that way too at first.
Right. And then once you get into the movie, you're like, oh no, he's not doing that at all. He's
also
not sleepwalking at all.
He brings so much gravitas, and you know, I have such high expectations on him that I just sort of transfer that to his character, and I expect his character to be smarter than everyone else in the movie, and he's not totally in control, and he gets surprised, even though he gets to outsmart Wahlberg. That's like saying I outsmarted my neighbor's dog when I accidentally.
I was going to say, it's like, what do you put when you put the tennis ball behind your back?
Yeah, no object permanence with Mark Wahlberg. But Denzel is great and everything. I've never not liked Denzel, but it's easy. I won't say easy. This is one of the first times where I may have forgotten I was watching Denzel when I watched the movie.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And I don't mean that as the compliment it might sound like.
No, I know what you mean.
I don't mean it as an insult either. It's just a statement.
It's just indifference. I know what you mean. He has that really great moment in this movie. It's so small, and it's when they're walking away from the triple quadruple cross at one point, and he pulls the gold teeth out of his mouth, and he's like, man, I cannot stand these things. And like, and it's such a small little moment that I was like, man, that is such a smart character decision. Like he's not making it a big deal. It's a very small moment, and it just makes that character so much more human than it was 30 seconds ago.
Well, and the interesting part is that's not the first time that he on screen takes those off and stuff. So they actually plant even earlier that he doesn't particularly even like wearing those, because he's putting them in and out a couple of times, and only late to the end does he actually mention that. So you're right. It is just this nice little thing that's kind of been show. And we did tell, but not like in a showy way or anything. It was like you said, it was more of like a character aside that you wouldn't even think about until, because we're not pointing at it. We're not telling you to pay attention to that per se. It's just something that kind of came out that, again, you're right, could have even have been a Denzel thing. I'm like, well, this is a pain in the ass to have these things.
Right.
I think this was just a paycheck for Denzel. This is the first time I felt like it.
You know what?
I absolutely do. Yes.
I'll say this though. I was like on show days, I like to go take a little drive on the back country roads and stuff and get my mind, straight about the show and think about having what kind of thoughts and stuff that I got. And thinking back, I go, even in movies that he's not, given 1,000% to, I can't think of a Denzel Washington movie where his acting, let's not talk about the movie itself, but his acting within said movie was any time under an 8.
No, that's right. Totally right.
Even if it's something crummy, he's never going below an 8 as far as acting goes, and it's that or above all the time, even if it's something that's crummy.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. I could emerge from this month with him as my favorite actor. I'm really liking what he does.
Yeah, man, he really is one of those. Like I know that he is very much appreciated, but I think even with that being said, I think he's so underappreciated for how good of an actor he really is.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't think of a fella who's better right now.
He can play. I know I harped on this last week. He can play anything. You can make that dude anyone, and he can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems like he doesn't have to go method to do it.
No,
there's great
he is
actors that I just think I would never want to be around. Him, I think I would want to bring him cigarettes and coffee in the morning so he'd tell me what's in the newspaper as he reads it.
And all accounts, nicest guy in the world.
He's just so good, man. Huh?
Yeah.
All accounts, nicest guy in the world from what everybody says. It's just like you're not going to find a finer man to be working with in Hollywood than Denzel. And I feel like I believe that.
I've heard him described as Tom Hanks with better hands.
Better skin tone.
Super pro. He's a super pro, man. And nice as can be. Totally nice as can be. Also, he has, like you were saying earlier, he has that gravitas, but also what he has is that you don't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like because he doesn't play a very specific type of character, even though he's a big movie star, you don't really know what type of person he's playing from movie to movie.
Mm-hmm.
And because he kind of runs the spectrum on it. And so it's like, so this is the kind of Denzel performance we're getting. Like after the first scene in this movie, you're like, oh, we're getting kind of scum bum Denzel Washington in this one.
Yeah, and that was also kind of a nice thing, just really not knowing outside of the name of the movie that it was a comic book adaptation and our 2 stars here. I knew nothing, and like that was very refreshing kind of going in and everything and just seeing what we were kind of getting, because they could have been 2 cops or whatever, and we learn as we do with all of the kind of reveal upon reveal in the first half hour there. So it works well enough, but you buy everything that he's doing. He's not leaning ridiculous into Denzel, but there's enough of it there that it's great. And he doesn't have to. It doesn't feel like he has to, drive it home per se. You don't need a Training Day level performance in this film. It wouldn't make sense.
He does angry laugh a couple of times in this one though.
Yeah. Sometimes the sun got to shine,
You just got to do it, man.
I love, this is one of the best big old giant Mexican standoffs ever. I love it so much. There's 6 guns involved in this bad boy, and they're all at the right places and stuff. It's just, gotta love it.
Pretty great. There is like, I do love the Mexican standoff scene for sure. There is a cardinal sin in this movie though, which is that I am not someone who can outguess a movie a lot, where I know where a movie's headed, unless it's something that's so paint by numbers. This movie isn't so paint by numbers as I originally thought it was going to be. But the second that money shows up and you realize that they're both undercover for different agencies,
right?
That the second that happened, I was like, oh, they're going to end up without the money, and they're probably going to blow up the money at the end of the movie, like instantly.
Yeah,
there's no way that these guys walk away with the money. And so at the very end of the movie, the cardinal sin happens when Denzel blows up the money, and his character says, "Well, no one saw that we were going to blow up that money, did they?" And I'm like, "Sir, I beg to differ. I got it 20 minutes in that you were going to do that.
Here's the problem, Sean. You are an intelligent man. These are scum bums who don't know nothing. They didn't learn a lot in
I'm
school.
a bit of a scum bum. You know me, Portress. I'm a bit of a scum bum.
But they weren't paying attention in class. That was the problem. They were picking their noses
I
and
prefer to
stuff.
refer to myself as a crumb bum, like Buford T. Justice.
Listen, you're not wrong though.
So I feel like this formula can't even be anywhere close to original, but I'm dying. I'm at a loss to come up with another example, but two undercover agents that don't know that the other one is also an undercover agent. So they're like
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
It's good.
But I feel like that's a tried and true formula. Like it should have been used a lot.
It's so tried and true at this point, Bruce. Dig this. Not only did we make a Mr. and Mrs. Smith movie, right? We made a Mr. and Mrs. Smith television program that lasted a season on Amazon starring Donald Glover and some other gal that I can't remember her name. And the show's so successful, they want to make a season 2, but the two actors, including Donald Glover there, they don't want to do it.
Is Donald Glover Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, then I'm in, man.
Well, no, he's not. So that's the problem.
Wait.
He's out now. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I think they're going to recast it. At least that's what they're talking about.
They are talking about recasting it.
What a dumb move. Just quit it.
Yeah, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll at least watch one episode with him in it because he has never let me down yet.
Yeah, there you go. You can report
You've
back
also
to us.
got to go with this, Adam. He just got off of a show that was 5 seasons. He probably is like, I don't want to go another 5 seasons on some damn show.
Yeah, but at the same time, too, he was also responsible for that show. So I feel like that's a different kind of horse altogether.
He's responsible for Mr. and Mrs. Smith also.
Oh, is he? Oh, I thought
he
was
one
just,
of the co-writers, yeah.
Was that right? Okay. I thought he was just kind of a gun for hire.
One of those guys, I couldn't see him post-Community working on somebody else's project. You know what I mean?
Hey, listen, I mean, I've just figured they might have backed a truckload of money. Unless and be like, you want to be on
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Lando Calrissian at your service.
Yeah.
I don't think I have much more to say about this. I mean, it's a fun comic book movie. It's got maybe too many plot points for its runtime, but I also don't want it any longer. I think they could have probably just maybe cut a few of the twists out. You could have.
Well, I don't really care about that stuff. I still think that you could probably excise 8 to 10, 15 minutes out of this movie, maybe, and probably make it a little bit better. You could chop some stuff out of this and just kind of get her trucking just a little bit faster.
And you don't need all the twists and turns with all of the alphabet agencies. Like you can pare that down quite a bit.
Yeah.
But the funny part is a lot of that.
You need one. This could have been good with 3 twists. You know, the twist,
yes.
The first twist with Denzel, the second twist with Wahlberg, and then the final twist with it's not an accident that the two of them are working together is the final twist, because the whole time you're watching the movie, like, what are the chances that 2 undercover cops end up working together on the same, it just doesn't make sense until you find out, well, they're there because someone put them there, but they just got too much along.
Now you will be good to know that in the real world, this crap does happen where other agencies go through and they feel like they're honeypotting somebody, but they're honeypotting another person who's trying to honeypot them. Like, it happens all the time because everybody's got to keep their budgets relevant and stuff like that. So they got to get out and go do some stuff. And so sometimes, they just run into other partners. It's like, you should be in the same building, you fellas. I don't know what it is. Why they keep you separate, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, okay,
it's kind of like the inverse of Midnight Cowboy, where he thinks she's going to pay him, and he thinks she's going to pay him. She thinks he's going to pay her. It's
time for you to settle up. What are you talking about? Aren't you paying for this one? All right. So is Denzel doing it in this movie? Let's ask ourselves that question.
I'm going to say this is the first time where you can make an argument that he's not, but I still think he is.
Okay, so define what you mean.
I think he is less impactful here than in the other movies we've watched. He's still getting it done, but if I were going to take what we've covered thus far and try to build an argument for when he didn't get it done, I guess it would be this one.
Okay.
And that's including other movies he's been in that weren't Denzel month,
That's fair.
Like Glory.
I think that that Denzel's version of Cash and Paychecks looks a lot different than other actors' versions of that.
Yeah.
I think that he is only allowed to be mediocre within himself to this point. Like I said, I think that he has a lot of, like, not a lot, but he has a few little moments in this movie where you're like, there's our guy, where he's just killing it.
Yeah.
I think that he's one of he's going to be able to do. He's literally going to be able to do any movie he wants, and people will be like, "I hated everything about this movie except for Denzel."
Yeah.
It's going to happen again and again. Like I've never seen the movie Deja Vu because I'm afraid to, but by all accounts, the people who have seen it have told me, "Oh, that movie is just awful," but Denzel's great in it.
I listen, and I'm a big Tony Scott fan, and even I'm in that one going like, this isn't great. Denzel was fine in it, but it is just like it's. If you think Domino made you almost have a seizure, Deja Vu's worse than that. It is just like, oh my word, him and his DP at the time, who's same guy and everything, but it was just like, Lord and mercy, y'all doing some wild stuff over here. It is not going to be for everybody's taste. I will definitely say that.
I think you could have replaced Denzel with Robert Forster.
That was going to be my next question. So if we had to replace Robert Forster, you think?
I really like Jackie Brown.
No. I don't know why you would, if you're going to replace this person in this movie, why it would be Denzel Washington.
Now, I have a person that I would recast, and I'm not going to lie to you. My recast is. It seems the most obvious in the world, I would think, and I know I'm going to get 100% approval from Sean of switching the actors out here. I want to take out Mark Wahlberg in this movie and put in Ben Foster.
Oh my, sir.
Yeah.
Because
yes.
He's been in another heist movie that has to do with banks and stuff like that. He's a hell of an amazing actor.
It's all out in the Midwest.
The age range is about right.
Terrific.
So it actually makes him a little bit younger than Wahlberg is, so it actually makes it work a little bit better in that case as well.
He plays cocky asshole way better than Wahlberg does.
Mm-hmm.
He also seems far more dangerous a human being than Mark Wahlberg does.
Yeah, I'm scared of that guy for sure.
He's not afraid to look ugly, unlike Mark Wahlberg. There's so much.
But he could probably be charming enough to get the waitress too, I think.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
You guys are talking about Ben Foster. I even think Ben Schwartz would be better than Marky Mark.
Yes. Agreed.
I'd love John Ralphio and Denzel.
Me too.
I don't want him in John Ralphio character.
Listen, that's another movie, but I'd watch it. Yeah,
so that's good.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Movies only come in two forms. This one could fall in either category, but it's either art or fart. Bruce, where is Two Guns for you? Art or fart?
Man, I like it, but it's hard to call it art. It's. You know how, when you're the one who farts, it doesn't bother you that bad?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a fart, but it's my fart. So it's like I would not want to subject anyone else to it, but it didn't bother me being in a room alone with it.
So
how about you, Sean?
Slight fart for him. Sean?
For me, it depends on where you stand with Mark Wahlberg, right? If you think that Mark Wahlberg, when you see him and you're like, that guy seems really cool, then you're going to love Two Guns. When I see Mark Wahlberg, I think, man, that guy sucks in every way that a human being can suck. So I don't like the movie. However, if you're indifferent towards Mark Wahlberg, you're probably going to like this movie, especially if you're like me and you like your movies a little heisty, because this movie is a little heisty.
Yeah.
And the other performances in this movie, especially the people who are bringing the ham, they are killing it in this movie. Edward James Olmos, Bill Paxton, those guys are great. I mean, even handsome boy from Handsome Boy Modeling School. He's great too.
Marsden doesn't have a ton to do. His character's a little underwritten and stuff like that, but he does with it what he can.
He's great in it too. It's all about Mark Wahlberg. And the very, very Tarantino-y opening to this movie. Once you get past the Tarantino-ness of it all, then the movie's fine.
You will be singing its praises once they've decided to stop doing it. Because I was just like, God, if we're going to be timey-wimey this whole time, I'm going to be a little upset because this so dialogue, far it ain't good.
The dialogue is very Tarantino-y too.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm calling this movie fart, but it's close. It's close to non-fart. It's closer than you might think, but it is a fart.
I'm just going barely art because I teeter tottered back and forth today with my kind of thoughts and everything, and because it is just so close. But I think there's enough things to recommend this movie, and again, it's one of those ones that people haven't really seen. You don't hear people talking about it, and I think it's at least good for one watch. I think most people will probably have at least enough of a time with it. They're like, that wasn't too bad. If it's on Netflix and, or something like that, and it's a rainy day, you can do a lot worse to waste, just under 2 hours of your time. But you could also do a lot better. So, choose your time wisely. I don't, like I said, if all of those elements together enough sound good to you, I think it's worth exploring. But I think Sean's also very much right. If any of those elements go, ooh, do skip, because it's not going to be worth it for you.
It's all based on your Wahlberg mileage. It really is.
Yeah.
Is next week a new release? Are we back to new release territory?
Absolutely, because we're coming around Thanksgiving here and everything, and as such, we're all thankful. We're thankful we can go out to the movies and see a Denzel Washington movie, because I don't know what you guys have heard. Have you guys heard the Denzel news recently? Is that he's kind of announced that pretty much he's retiring.
He's got 2 more movies and he's out.
Two or three more things. Now, granted, one of those is a new Black Panther movie.
Yep.
So,
Well, rumor is he's renting a room in Gene Hackman's place.
Listen, I'm here to see whatever the man does, and I hope he quits, happy and rich. So I'm all here for it, and God knows he's given us enough, work over the years.
He's prolific enough that you're not going to run out of stuff to watch. He doesn't need to make more if he doesn't want to.
Oh yeah, and that's why we also subtitled this series "The Action Movies of Denzel Washington," because we want to do more Denzel Washington, over time and stuff like that. So we'll be coming back to because there's so many of them. He has, outside of this, we got drama roles, we got there's so much stuff to choose from. So we're coming back to Denzel.
We could do civil rights Denzel Washington and have enough for a month.
Exactly. It's just like the gift keeps on giving, and so we are headed out to the theaters next week to see Gladiator 2. We got Denzel, Ridley Scott, 20 years after a sequel. What's to worry about, right? Everything should be fine. Yes.
No worries, mate.
Yes.
No worries.
Everything's gonna be super good. So we'll be talking about Gladiator 2 next week. I don't know anything. I really don't.
I'll say that I have seen the trailer, and it's a well-made trailer.
Yeah, there you go. I just stopped any 5 seconds into it. It's just I know enough to be like, don't show me nothing. I don't it ain't gonna help. So I refuse to do it. And so, but I'm excited to get out. And,
I could be totally wrong about this, but it really does feel like Ridley in his wheelhouse. It feels like, ooh, this is the kind of Ridley I like.
Isn't it just wild to go, that man's 80 years old?
He's older than that. He's almost damn 90.
Yeah, he looks so good. He's always just chomping on the cigar and just telling you, well, here's a little bit about this, a little bit about that. And you're like, he still got it. The dude still got it. And you see he storyboards out everything, and he's just an amazing artist. It's God, what a talent, that guy. We'll talk more about him next week for sure. In the meantime, Sean, where we can find more of your work on the internet?
Go to the YouTube, go to HMP, and subscribe, please.
Yeah, we got videos coming up there and stuff, and outside of just this show itself, so you can listen to this show if you're not around a podcast player or anything else like that. You can throw that audio up there, and video and stuff as well. I'm doing some DVD and Blu-ray unboxings and stuff like that, and I may have a couple more things brewing in the future, so go check that out. Links are in the show notes. Bruce, what's your favorite type of sandwich?
My favorite type of sandwich would be a free sandwich.
Hey, as long as it's got that word free, you sound like my grandpa. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Your kids need to start making kids as soon as it's appropriate for them to.
Oh, I bet you'll be a great grandpa.
He would be an amazing grandpa if you think about it.
That is a good call. I never thought about that. You're going to be a great granddad, man.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, I'm going to be Santa Claus this holiday season.
See, he's prepping for it already. The man's he's got in his bones. You can't take it out of him. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for Gladiator 2 for Sweet Sean to Kovacs from the internet. I'm Adam Portress, reminding you that the only difference between art and fart is an F.